Hey, good morning. Let's talk about your soul. Can I get a show of hands? How many of you out there believe that you have a soul? Yep, that's about right. 80% or so. Most Westerners say, yeah, I got a soul. If you got a soul, then we have a lot to talk about. Buddhists actually, if you were to ask them, there are two different answers depending on which tradition we're in. The Theravada tradition's going, not so much. There's this like energy, mind, consciousness that's running through us. Yeah, we got that. But it's not the same today as it was yesterday, and it's not going to be the same tomorrow, and it's certainly not the same in another life. There's nothing that locks up and says, well, now that's Tom, that moves from one to another. It's just this constant flow, sort of like the electricity in my light fixture here in the office. The electricity's flowing through it, and we say electricity, electricity, electricity. But you know what? Whatever electricity was flowing through it 10 minutes ago is long gone, never to appear again. So if it goes on and it lights up another light, did it belong to this light? I don't know. It's hard to say that. So Theravada tradition believes that there is this pool of consciousness that flows through, but none of it is identifiably Tom. On the other hand, the Mahayana tradition, which is much, much bigger, and reflects more of an Indian than Chinese mentality, and ends up spreading on to Tibet and Japan, so it's the dominant Buddhism, they do believe in an Atman. That's a Hindu word. Of course, they're buying the Hindu system. A soul, a self, an individual that moves from one body to another body. Sort of like the Dalai Lama has done 14 times. So if they've got two different answers, it's worth it to us to ask the question. It's legitimate, don't you think? Do you have a soul? If you've got a soul, you should be able at least to tell me what we're talking about, right? I have a soul. I say, what do you mean? I'm new to English, so help me out with this one. Exactly what do you mean when you say soul? If I ask you, when you say, I've got a pair of shoes, I say, what do you mean? You say, well, it's those things that cover your feet, and protect your feet as you walk along. I say, oh, yeah, okay, I get it, nice. If you have a soul, tell me what it is. And the answers are varied. When you just ask a class of students, some people are going to say, well, it's your consciousness. And some people are going to say, it's your personality. And some people are going to say, it's your moral compass. Some people are going to say, it's just me. And you go, that didn't help. Some people say, it's my spirit. And I say, okay, now all we got to do is just define the word spirit. And we're off and running, right? Just as hard. If it's my personality, I have some trouble with that one nowadays. My mom had an aneurysm in her brain. My dad has Parkinson's. My 29-year-old son got in an accident when he was 10, got hit by a car, was running across the street and scrambled his brains. All three of those situations, and now I add a fourth, my sister-in-law had brain surgery to remove a tumor about a year ago. All four of those people end up with dramatically different personalities afterwards. In other words, their personality was determined by the physical rearrangement of their brain in one form or another. People talk about neural mapping is the fancy word for this. What it comes down to is your brain has wiring, and when something happens like an aneurysm, the wiring shifts. Or Parkinson's, the disease ends up impacting your wiring, or you get hit by a fire hydrant after being hit by a car and everything mixes up and now you got brand new wiring. You got different personalities. My mom is not the same now as she was before. My son is not the same now as he was before. Dramatically different personalities. And now we're looking at my sister-in-law, and she's different than what she was before. Completely different likes and dislikes, patience levels, all of that kind of stuff goes into this. Whether you like affection, you don't like affection, whether you want to be alone, whether you want to be with people. Those are the things that change because your brain changes. So is your soul your brain? Well, we don't like that idea because if your soul is your brain and the worms crawl in, the worms crawl out, you don't have a soul anymore, not too long after they lay you in the tomb. So you go, no, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. I meant the personality that runs through your brain. You say, what part of that is running through your brain? I mean, I can rearrange your brain and change your personality. I'm not messing with the non-corporeal part, am I? Some people want to say it's the part that drives me, the part that makes me do that. So if I reach out and poke you in the nose, my soul did that. That makes sense in a Western context, doesn't it? So like if we lie, we cheat, we steal, we hit people, we sleep around on our wives, stuff like that, there's comeuppance and your soul is going to get punished for it. Well, the only way that makes sense is if your soul somehow can control that. But you all know in the New Testament, for instance, Paul's wrestling with this one when he says, the very thing that I want to do, I can't do. And the very thing I think I don't want to do, I end up doing. He's at war. Whatever his soul is and whatever his body is, however he's going to define them, are moving in different directions. And you know what that's like. The little voice in your head that's going, yep, don't look at her. Do not look at her. Do not. I said do not. And you go, oh, you looked at her. You know, the soul doesn't seem to have a lot of control up there, does it? I got a little experiment I read once. They put a guy in front of he had a brain surgery, and they wanted to see what kind of impact it had. This is like 40, 50 years ago. So they put him in front of a screen, and they had a slide projector, those old carousels, you know, with the thing that turned. They gave him the remote control, and they said, watch these pictures, and we're going to take the little electrodes, and we're just going to check out and see what your brain does while you watch them. Some are happy pictures, some are scary pictures. We want to see, right? So they said, push the button to go forward, push this other button to go backward, enjoy it, watch the slide for 10, 15 seconds if you want to, 2 seconds if you want to just get by it. You know, whatever, it's up to you. So he sat there and he goes, at some point in the experiment, he became aware of the fact that the slide on the screen was changing just before his button pushed it. And he's thinking, is this thing reading my mind? Here's the odd part. That remote control connected to a wire that did nothing. It wasn't a remote control, it was just a dead button. What was actually changing his brain were the electrodes that were on his brain running to the back of the slide projector, so that what was happening was his brain was making a decision, and then his physical body was following up on it. That sounds like it could be right, huh? The brain makes a choice and then your body goes, but what he was noticing was that the slide projector was not only beating his thumb, it was beating his brain. He'd go, yeah, I want to, and the slide was already changing. By the time he became aware of the fact that he wanted to change the slide was already changing. In other words, his consciousness was behind the action. It was later delayed just a split second, and then came the physical action. So, decision, consciousness, physical action. You know, those last two can rearrange. You drive home on autopilot. Ooh, worse than that. Somebody says, you know, so what do you think of this dress? Well, looks great, except it looks like you got a dog carcass on you. Oh, crap. I didn't mean to say that. The Freudian slip, right? And you sit there and go, where did that come from? The action happened, and then your consciousness goes, yeah, I guess that's true. I do think it looks like a dog carcass on your head. And you go, that was weird. Somebody says, a penny for your thoughts. And you go, I'm not really thinking anything. Well, I'll tell you what. And then you have something. Our consciousness isn't functioning as our control mechanism because it's behind. It's more like your computer monitor. You turn your monitor on, you turn your computer on, you make your computer do something, and the monitor is just telling you what the computer is doing. Turn the monitor off, let the computer do what it's going to do. Later, turn the monitor back on, and you can see all the stuff that the computer did. The computer monitor is your consciousness. If your consciousness is making decisions that govern you, we got problems because we're doing things before our consciousness is aware of them. Let's try backing it down a step. What about your subconsciousness? That's scary. Because if that's where your soul is, if your soul is your subconscious world, it's a mess down there. There's all kinds of stuff going on down there, and a lot of it I don't want to be held accountable for. Some of the stuff that's down there are, you know, it's kind of cool. Like, I'm kind of in the mood for pizza right now, and I wonder if I got enough time to finish this video before class starts. And that girl that just walked by my window, stop that. You see, sometimes the subconscious world is ugly. And the soul can't be held responsible for all of that, can it? Let's have some more fun. Whatever your soul does, let's ask when you get it. Did you get it at birth? They used to think when the head came out, boom, soul. In fact, they called that ensoulment. But then later on, people said, well, just kill it before it comes out. That way it's not a real person. They said, no. Actually, you got to back up a little bit. We're going to go with the whole quickening thing. You know, the first time mom feels the baby kick, that's when it got its soul. See, now you can't kill it. You know, you can't just because it's a human being. And so you say, okay, well, I'll kill it before that. I'll do an abortion before that. And yeah, no. We got tools now. We can measure sonograms. So we can hear the baby's heartbeat. That's the beginning. When a baby begins having a heartbeat, that's when it gets its soul. And somebody says, well, with the equipment we got, we can do an abortion right up to that moment then. And somebody else goes, no. The baby's soul happens at conception. When the sperm and the egg get together, poof, a soul is endowed in that thing. That's where a lot of people are today, right? You get your soul at conception. You know what? That's awkward. Because 1/3 of all conceptions or more result in spontaneous abortion. Which is to say, after 24 hours, 48 hours, the body says, this one ain't working. It's gone. We have wasted a lot of souls that way. Souls that you got at conception, 24 hours later, they're just done. They float off to limbo or something. They haven't even been born. I mean, what are they? And then you have the problem of identical twins. You get one sperm, one egg, boom, they're together, right? And then one soul, except 24, 48 hours later, boom, they split into two embryos. Two embryos with one soul, right? Do they split it 50-50? Is it an 80-20 thing? Is it one of them gets one and the other's a zombie? Or does the guy who has to endow souls, the soul angel, have to come back? You know, it's, oh crap, he should have told me this. I just stuck around. And he gives a second soul in that process. Or maybe it's the other way around. When he's down there, that's what causes twins, right? A sperm meets an egg, and the soul angel gives a soul, accidentally dishes out two. You've done that before, haven't you? 2 napkins instead of 1. 2 souls instead of 1. It's, oh crud, I gave him 2. That's okay. They'll split apart and work it just fine from here on. Maybe that's it. See, this sort of sounds silly, doesn't it? When does your soul leave you? There's another question we haven't got figured out yet, huh? Your soul leaves you when you die. Wait, go back. Remember we talked about that. When do you die? Is dying because your heart stops? Dying because your brain stops? Dying, does the soul leave you as soon as you are clinically dead? Boom, soul's out of there. And then the doctor comes along and says, no, I can fix this one. You're back alive. And the soul goes, oh, he's got to crawl back inside. Does a soul stay inside for a certain length of time? Some people just make that up and say, yeah, 3 days. 3 days the soul stays inside the body just to make sure it's dead. Well then, death is not the lack of a soul. Does the soul hang out in the waiting room so that when you come back and you go, I had this near-death experience, the soul's going, I know, I was off there. That's how you had it. You were right here. I just took off, came back, gave you a little future trip, you know? We have all kinds of questions about how long a soul stays around and how it gets away. Is it stuck to us? I always wonder, is it just hiding someplace in our head or in our heart, or is it the same shape as my body? And if it's the same shape as my body and I die, does it have to push its way free? How did it stick around before? Was it a voluntary action on the soul's part? Or is it that death, melts the glue? The problem with soul is we can't say what it is. We can't say where it is. We can't all agree on what it does. We can't say when we get it. We can't say when it's gone. And if you can't do any of that, then maybe the Buddhists have it. Maybe it's just something that we like to hold on to because Mama told us we have one. Maybe it's a construct in our heads that just makes us feel better. This is a tough one.